I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. The women who win in life, whether it's business, relationships, or social situations, like you, are smart. Many of them are educated, talented, and or highly credentialed. But it is not her IQ that can determine her success. It is her EQ. Translation, her emotional intelligence. That is the attribute that can propel her way beyond even those with ridiculously genius minds. Because ladies, and you know this, you can be brilliant on paper and still misread a room. You can be highly credentialed and yet still damage relationships. You can be out of this world talented and yet still self-sabotage. IQ, talent, ability certainly can open doors, but emotional intelligence, or EQ, determines how high you go once you step through. And the women who both understand and apply this, the women who learn to seamlessly move through different environments, personalities, and varying power structures, are the women who win. Time and time and time again. So today I want to walk you through 10 of the most important emotional intelligence habits that separate women who win from the women who make it infinitely more difficult for themselves. Number 1, these women instantly understand power dynamics. This one is really powerful, ladies, which is why I'm leading with it. Emotionally intelligent women, I will call it EQ from here on out, don't naturally walk into rooms without a thought. They walk in and usually without even thinking about it, immediately start reading a room. Within minutes, they know who has influence, who thinks they have influence, who is insecure or uncomfortable, who's confident, and who is quietly observing everything. They know intuitively that every room has both visible power and invisible power. Misreading either one can be costly. For example, if you're at a dinner with financially sophisticated peers who openly discuss investments, portfolios, and travels, you referencing an exotic trip or an expensive purchase feels normal. No one blinks an eye. On the other hand, if you're sitting at a table with employees or people in a much different financial bracket, talking about your expensive lifestyle is not only highly inappropriate, it's off-putting and honestly is just socially deaf. High EQ women immediately read the audience and they calibrate. Number 2, they read the room accurately. High EQ women don't just feel the vibes, they quickly assess dynamics in real time. Who's being ignored but actually holds influence? Who is being assumed irrelevant but really isn't? And who is quietly being underestimated? They observe behavior because they know that misreading anything can be very expensive. Okay, let me give you a real life example from my own life. Oliver and I were car shopping last year. Now, this is a very high-end dealership that really should have known better. Instead, for the entire time, the salesman interacted directly with Oliver, only with Oliver, directed every question to him, fawning over him, yes sir, no sir, right away Mr. Pelly, never once acknowledging me. Not once. Literally, I was the invisible woman to this salesperson. Toward the end of his pitch, he turns to Oliver and says, "Would you like to take it for a test drive?" At which point, I gleefully stepped in, "The car is for me." The look of, crap on his face, I have to be honest, was a little bit delicious. In short, he misread the room, he misread influence, and he lost the sale. It wasn't a product knowledge issue, it wasn't a pricing issue, it was pure emotional intelligence failure. High EQ women, ladies, as you know, do not make that mistake. They clock dynamics quickly and they adjust accordingly. And in doing so, they avoid unforced errors. Number 3, they edit themselves based on audience. Look, somewhere along the way, we were sold this thought that being authentic means saying exactly what you mean. I'm real. I don't have a filter. I'll tell you everything about my life and exactly what I think. That, ladies, is not authenticity. That is a lack of discretion. And frankly, in my opinion, many people use that as an excuse to be rude to other people. Like, I say what I think regardless of other people's feelings. That is not going to get you far in life, my friend. High EQ women understand the need to edit themselves depending on the group of people. basic, right? You can be your full, authentic self, yet still decide this detail isn't necessary in this situation. This story is not appropriate for this audience. And you know what? This opinion just doesn't need to be voiced right now. For example, if you're with a group of friends, you might openly discuss financial issues, relationship issues, or personal stress you're going through, right? But you wouldn't talk about those sorts of things with a boss or a colleague. Not because you're fake, but because you understand context. You understand when something is appropriate and when it's just not appropriate. Oversharing in the wrong room or with the wrong person doesn't make you relatable. It makes you uncomfortable to be around. Number 4, they protect other people's dignity. Very important. This is another big one, ladies. The emotionally intelligent people never embarrass other people just in an effort to look more superior. And I gotta take this off because I'm getting hot. If a friend happens to mispronounce a brand name at dinner, she doesn't publicly correct her. If a direct report makes a small mistake in a meeting, they don't highlight it in front of the group and embarrass the person. Instead, she knows to handle it privately. She fully gets that humiliation can quietly create resentment, and resentment always resurfaces later when you least need it or want it. And candidly, if you're the one constantly jumping on other people's grammar, correcting the accuracy of a minor detail or pronunciation, you don't look superior, you don't look smarter. Honestly, you kinda just look like an ass. Why? Because other people are quietly thinking, wow, that was uncalled for. Number 5, you keep your cool when others escalate. One of the fastest ways to lose power and influence is to mirror somebody else's emotional spike. Look, EQ women understand something that most people don't. The calmest person in the interaction wins. Not only does she win, but she has the ability to direct the conversation. When someone escalates, gets defensive, irritated, reactive, the instinct is to match them, right? To defend, to raise your voice, to push back harder. That might feel powerful in the moment, but it isn't. It is actually handing over control. High EQ women resist the urge to let someone else's emotional state dictate their own. They regulate first, always. I'll say it again. They regulate first. If someone snaps, they don't compete for volume. They wait calmly for him to finish his tantrum, then respond slowly, methodically, with a calm, measured voice. This, ladies, does 3 powerful things. Number 1, it makes it clear to everybody that you are the adult in the room. Number 2, the other person, whether he says it or not, quietly feels like an idiot because it's very clear he's the only one out of control. Number 3, and here's what's most important, what you will notice is that the more calm you are, the more apt the person who is out of control will start to calm down and mirror your behavior. Why? Well, because it's kind of hard to keep pitching a fit, to keep throwing a tantrum when the other person is calm and measured. It takes 2 to fight, and when you're the one that's relaxed and calm, that other person kind of starts to come down off of his tizzy. High EQ women understand that escalation is contagious, but composure is stabilizing, and she uses that to her advantage. The person who stabilizes the room is the one that other people look to, because once you lose emotional control, you lose leverage. And women with high EQ work to protect their leverage at all costs. Number 6, they use silence strategically. Ladies, I've said it before and I'll say it again. Using silence can be extremely powerful when you understand how to do it. They judiciously use this power to their advantage. In negotiation, they state their position and then they stop talking. The other side will naturally work to fill in the silent gaps, many times sharing valuable information that they wouldn't have otherwise. This is when she listens with intent. These are valuable pearls dropping from his or her mouth, ladies. Silence can be incredibly powerful. It makes people reveal more than what they intended. Ladies, in real life, at parties, the very few that we go to, I will tell you that I rarely talk about myself or share much about myself. And not because I'm being closely guarded. Rather, I tend to ask people a lot of open-ended questions about themselves, and then I'm just quiet and I listen. Now, I'm not doing this for any particular reason. I am really just interested in other people and I like to hear about them. But I can tell you that there are definitely some times when I've gotten some good little tidbits that have helped us. And the other benefit is, honestly, they come away thinking, wow, she's really nice. I really like her. Well, they didn't really know anything about me. They just know that I made them feel good because I let them talk about themselves. Number 7, they address conflict privately, not publicly, unless absolutely necessary. She doesn't correct people publicly and doesn't create a scene. Rather, she addresses it one-on-one behind closed doors. Public correction, especially when unwarranted, can create anger, resentment, and a power struggle. No one likes to feel like you made a fool out of them, so don't do it unless it's absolutely necessary. Let me give you an example of how I used 2 of these principles, ladies: silence and addressing conflict privately. Okay, I was leading a team meeting with about 80 to 90 people who reported up through to me. The subject was about comp plan changes, which in a nutshell was not going to be a popular subject. One of my team members, clearly upset, took it upon herself to make a couple snarky comments. The first time I let it go. The second time I let it go. The third time, I stopped mid-sentence, quietly looked her in the eye with no facial changes. Think the power of silence. When it was clear that she was uncomfortable, I continued the meeting. After I was finished, I dismissed the room and I said, "Michelle, can I see you in my office, please?" Everybody knew what was happening, but they also noted that I had the class and the professionalism not to address it in the meeting, but rather to take her behind closed doors and say, "What's the deal?" Number 8, they are emotionally self-sufficient. These are the women who don't require constant reassurance that you still like them. If someone seems distant or preoccupied that day, they don't spiral into, "Did I do something wrong? Is everything okay? You're not mad at me, are you?" Instead, they chill, knowing that it's probably something that is going on in the person's life that really has nothing to do with them. Before reacting, they observe behavior before forming conclusions. In other words, they don't let a temporary shift in others turn into a dramatic freakout. Number 9, she adjusts quickly when she's wrong. Ladies, we know these people. They're always right. They never do anything wrong. Everything they do or say is perfect. And they never make a mistake. It's always somebody else. Emotionally intelligent women are not attached to being right. They are attached to getting it right. That is the difference. Low EQ clings to their original position at all costs because they see admitting errors as a weakness. The high EQ understands that defending a mistake actually costs more than correcting it, specifically the respect and the trust of others. They don't double down to protect pride, they course correct to preserve momentum. For example, if I misread somebody's tone and I assume hostility and later realize I was wrong, I don't sit there and justify it in my head. Instead, I might say, "You know what? I may have misinterpreted that." Do you think that builds credibility in other people's mind or weakness? Credibility, right? And people have a lot more respect for those who can step up and say, "I think that was my bad." Or, "That was my mistake. Let's look at this again." In business, if a strategy clearly isn't working, this is the person who doesn't keep pushing it just because it was her idea. Instead, pivot. Don't waste 6 months to protect ego when the data suggests a turn is needed. The reality is this: the fastest growing women aren't the ones who were never wrong. They are the ones who don't waste time defending it. Ego slows growth, adaptability accelerates it. And the women who can say, "That was my mistake, let's pivot," are the ones who level up. Number 10, they think long-term in every interaction. They're not automatically sending the angry but satisfying message. They're not posting the emotional story. They're not making mean comments. In short, they don't burn bridges for short-term relief. Instead, they chill and they ask themselves, how will others see this and how can it affect and hurt me? They understand that every interaction, especially in written word, is either expanding or contracting her current opportunities and her future opportunities. Women who win think beyond the moment. They think long term about consequences of their actions. Ladies, emotional intelligence is our superpower. It is silent, it is intuitive, and over time, those quiet decisions shape the trajectory of your life. Ladies, we all learn from each other, so please share below which ones you most effectively use in real life and examples. Have a great week, ladies. I will see you in a couple days, and as always, take care.